Hey YouTube, I'm Ross Stewart with Stewart Media Digital, here today to talk about the Sigma 135 f1.4 DG prime lens for the Sony E-mount system. So I've got the lovely Grace with me here today to take some test shots and to give my first impression of this lens. Now, I don't have a spec sheet in front of me, so I'm not going to be talking about all the little details, but once I've had this lens for a couple weeks, I will go back and go through absolutely everything there is to know about this lens. But for now, I just want to take it out, take some shots, and give you guys my first impressions. So let's get shooting. All right, so first things first, let's talk about the build quality of this lens. It is really nicely built. It is really heavy though. A couple weeks ago, I tested out the Sigma 35mm f1.2, which was an amazing lens. Be sure to check out my videos on that. I said that that lens was the biggest prime lens I'd ever held in my hands. It was over 2.5 pounds. This one is the new record holder. This lens is massive and it is really heavy and it is really front heavy. But it is one of Sigma's art lenses, so it does feel really sturdy. It is really nicely built. So let's talk about some of the features. It has a really nice rubberized focus ring, and it is full-time manual focus. I love full-time manual focus. Most lenses for Sony cameras that I've used are focused by wire, and it works really well, but I'm gonna make a whole nother video about why I love full-time manual focus. It is really nice when you need it. The focus ring has a nice throw, and it does have this manual readout on the back that tells you your distance. Next, it has an autofocus, manual focus switch. It does come with a tripod collar, which does come off pretty easily, but you definitely need it. It is really bulky, really front heavy. You are not gonna wanna put a tripod on the camera itself. You definitely will wanna mount it with the tripod collar. And then it also comes with this very large lens hood that does feel really nicely built. It does attach strangely. It snaps into place and then you turn a knob to lock it. But I feel like it's nice that they included this because that is a lot of glass to protect. And yeah, that's pretty much it for build quality. So let's get shooting. Nice, yeah, just like that, perfect. Get a little closer. Nice, yeah. Look over your shoulder. Nice, perfect. Now stand up and do a power pose again. Yeah, just like that. The hero shot, nice, perfect. As you can tell from those shots, we are getting some really nice subject separation, some really nice blurry out of focus backgrounds, and some really nice compression. That's something that this lens really thrives at. Being a 105 at 1.4, that's an amazing wide aperture on a relatively telephoto lens. So that's perfect right there. Nice. Awesome. Look off that way a little bit. Yeah, nice, nice, nice. Perfect. So far, shooting into basically the sunset, we are still getting a lot of really nice contrast, and this lens, mixed with my A7 III, they're having no trouble locking in on her face, locking in on the eyes. Even from this distance, full body, the autofocus really is doing a great job honing right in on that eye, which is so important when you have a 1.4 aperture. So now I'm gonna step in and take some tighter shots and see if it can still really nail those eyes and still really nail that sharp, crisp contrast. I love it. Perfect. So as you can see from that shot, this lens does not get a lot of flaring and ghosting, which honestly is surprising. We've got a really, really bright reflection of the sun behind her, and I'm shooting directly into it to the point where if I look at it, it practically blinds me. but the lens is handling it really well. We're still getting a lot of really nice contrast, and it's not having any trouble focusing in a backlit situation. And there is practically no flaring. There is a little bit, but it's really not that bad considering how huge this front element of glass is. So if you've watched any of my other videos, you know I really like to hone in on and really focus on what I love most about a lens. And this one so far is absolutely going to be the subject separation. This lens has so much character. We are in downtown Dallas right now. We've got tall buildings all around us, and being able to get those really blurry, out of focus backgrounds with the colors of the buildings and the colors of the sky and just that cool urban feel without explicitly showing it gives images a lot of character, and I absolutely love that about this lens and lenses like this. So let me take a couple more shots and show you exactly what I mean by that. So yeah, just like that, perfect. And nice. Look off that way now. Yeah, oh yeah, just like that, perfect. Nice. Yeah, perfect, right there. Now look straight ahead, or actually don't look straight ahead, look at like that tree. Yeah. Nice. Right there, and so the minimum focusing distance of this lens is really impressive. I am able to fill the frame, so if you are using this lens for portraits, you're not going to have any trouble whatsoever with the minimum focusing distance. You do need some working space though. If you do want full body portraits, you're going to have to take a few big steps back. But really, it's not too bad. 105 is a really nice focal length, especially for portraits. Nice, right there, perfect. Awesome. So as you can see, she is really close to that grass, but thanks to the 1.4 maximum aperture, the 1.4 that I'm shooting at right now, the grass gets blurry so quickly. You can get so much great subject separation that you can pretty much use anything as a background and still get some really pleasing shots. So that's another really great thing about this lens. So far, I'm having a really great experience shooting with it. This is a rental, but I may end up having to pick this lens up for myself. Nice. So I found this tree with some Christmas lights to test the bokeh, and so far the shots I'm getting are really impressive. The bokeh is really smooth. It does have a good amount of cat eye bokeh around the edges, but every lens I've ever tested does this, so it's really not a big deal to me. The bokeh is really smooth and it is really round in the middle, even at 1.4. And another really cool thing, like I've said about compression and subject separation, she does not have to be very far from this tree. She's only a few feet away from the lights, but because of this lens, it looks like a magical wonderland behind her. So now I have her against this plain wall to test vignetting. Vignetting is usually a pretty big problem with wide maximum aperture lenses. So let's take a couple shots and see how much vignetting there is. Nice, perfect right there. Perfect. Let me switch to f2.8. Raise the ISO a couple stops, and awesome. So I'll do a voiceover if I see any different results when I get it up on my computer, but looking at the back of the screen, there is almost no vignetting whatsoever at 1.4, and by 2.8, it looks completely gone. So that is really impressive out of a 1.4 at 1.4. So this lens is really impressing me. So going back to bokeh for just a second, by f2, all the cat eye is practically cleared up and the bokeh is perfectly round and really smooth corner to corner. So like I've said, I am using eye detect autofocus. So when I lock in on her eyes, on the back of the camera, when I punch all the way in, her eyes are really sharp. This is not quite as sharp as a couple of the other lenses I've tested, but it's really pixel peeping. I don't think anybody would complain about the sharpness of this lens. It is really sharp. So another really cool thing about a 1.4 maximum aperture is that it's gonna be really great for low light. The sun is down now. We still have a little bit of light in the sky, but it is getting pretty dark. So I found this cool neon light area. So let's take some shots and see what we can do with the low light capabilities. So yeah, go ahead and get pretty close again, just like that. Perfect. Nice. Now look into the window, just like that. Get a little closer. Perfect. So even in this relatively dark situation, I'm shooting at ISO 1000, which is by no means a low ISO, but with another lens, you may have to bump it up to 1600, 3200, 6400, or even beyond. So being able to shoot relatively clean around 800, around 1000 is still pretty impressive. So Grace is actually a gymnast, so let's test the autofocus capabilities of this lens with her doing some cool gymnastics moves. So got her there, and go ahead. Nice. All right, do one more. Anytime. Awesome. Nice. So that did a really good job keeping her in focus. I'm really impressed. Side to side, it tracked her nicely, and moving towards the camera really quickly. It also kept her in focus really nicely. So that's it for my first impression, hands-on review of this lens. Like I said, once I've had this lens for a couple weeks and taken a lot more shots with it, I'm going to do an in-depth review, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. And thank you so much to Grace for being our lovely model today. And if you're interested in renting gear, I rented this lens through aperturent.com, and I've always had a really good experience with them. So be sure to check them out in the link in the description box below. And thanks so much for watching.